week because I am incredibly ill. Um, I've been fighting a horrible cold, and it's not getting any better as time goes on. So I'm going to do what I can and hope that it is enough. Um, we'll start with the first question. How does research on life's conditions that accelerate telomere shortening illustrate the joint influence of heredity and environment on biological aging? Um, I don't think we should do research into the shortening of our DNA or the shortening of anything. I don't think we should be doing things that give you an insight into how long you're going to live or what you're going to do or things like that. I think we need to just take life as life comes and just know that it's precious and you're not promised tomorrow. Um, I'm a firm believer that we manifest things in our life. We have the ability to affect our own change and health. And if we know that the end of our life is coming and it'll be shortened, then we'll live our lives differently if we didn't and possibly miss some great things and the ability to change not only your life but someone else's in the thing. I always believe that you shouldn't deprive someone else of a blessing or the ability to bless you because in return you might be blessing them. When you shorten your life and you know things like these tests that you can find out if you're predestined to have breast cancer. So these women go ahead and take out their reproductive organs and they have their breasts removed. That's ridiculous. You just deprived yourself of what could be another life and not necessarily what you would get from that life, but what that life would have been to somebody else. That would have been somebody's wife or somebody's mother or somebody's husband or brother or sister or uncle, and they could have been meant to play a very vital role, and you've changed that. So I don't think we should be doing it for our own purpose. Should we be doing it for research purposes so we can follow things? Of course we should, because we need to know that these things are hereditary and what isn't hereditary and things like that. But our world has gone on for so long without knowing that. Why are we changing that? And I just think that we need to let life be life. Um, Next question is, why are people in committed relationships likely to be more sexually active and satisfied than those who are dating several partners? I have a very strong belief in monogamy, and I have a very strong belief in things that make someone sexy aren't necessarily the things that you would think. I've been sick and going to work every day, and when I come home, my husband had made me chicken noodle soup because I mentioned it, and not just opened a can and popped it into a pot. He made chicken noodle soup in the crock pot and cut up the vegetables and cut up the celery and made the broth and got the crackers and had it ready so that when I came home, all I had to do was warm it up and eat and go to bed. And that was probably the sexiest thing in the entire world. He wasn't dressed really great that day. It was kind of a bummy day for him. But at that moment, I had never seen anybody more sexy. And maybe that's why people are more sexually active, because they find sexy in things that are normal every day that you want to do for somebody. Bringing a rose home, or coming home to the dishes done, or a home cooked meal, or something they say, or something silly makes you sexually more attracted to them, because this stuff tends to build up and you find them more and more sexy as time goes on for the little things that they do. Well, when you're dating several different partners, you're striving to find sexy in those people because that's all that they are to you is sex. There's no true feeling in between it. So I think that that's why they are more sexually active and more sexually satisfied, because you're finding sexy in things that the world doesn't necessarily show as sexy. It's not lingerie and little things that you like. It's the norm of things. How does expertise affect information processing? Why is expertise necessary but not the same as creativity? Um, Expertise is knowing what you're dealing with. You're an expert in your field. You've studied everything, you know everything, you've got all of the information, and this is what you know, and this is what it is, and you're limiting your mind to what a creative person can bring to it. So, um, creativity, seeing outside of the box, thinking something that might not necessarily be visual to people, that you might so when you're an expert, you think you know it all. At least that's what I've seen, and they tend to be closed off to the possibility that there's things that they might not see or they might not know, or the ability to be open-minded to something and be able to think that there's other input that might not necessarily be the obvious, but it is pertinent. And when creativity and expertise meet, you can have this explosion of amazing things, but they have a tendency to fight against each other because the creative mind blocks the expert mind, and the expert mind has a tendency to think the creative mind is just being eccentric and a little over thing when that's not what studies show. So there is a definite struggle there. Um, what student and college environment characteristics contribute to favorable psychological changes during the college years? Really wasn't 100% sure I understood this question even after all the um, study I did on it, and it could just be because I'm not feeling good, but some of the college environment characteristics that contribute to favorable psychological changes are um, being surrounded by people that are like-minded, having buildings in your campus that are open to your cultural differences, your religious differences, having just a diverse atmosphere so that you are growing up to be a well rounded human being and having a positive effect on you and having a positive effect on the world. And these are psychological changes during your college years where you find out what you believe and what you don't believe, and you're finally free and you're able to really get into all these different things and find out where you fit. And it's important that a college have all that. What cultural changes have led to the emergence of the period known as emerging adulthood? I look back on what was considered my emerging adulthood and I say, wow, I would not want to be that age now at all. In a day and age where we can question things like not only who we are, but our gender and our sexuality and things. At least that for me was very clear cut. I was a female, and this is what my job and my role was. Now, I wanted to be a mom. That was what I had always wanted to be my whole life. I didn't know that I could do all the things that that you can do now. So that leads into Levinson and how the life structures of men and women different, where a man is expected to go out and make a living and to provide for a family, where a woman is expected to have children and be the family life and blah blah blah, and at the same time be a expert or a professional. And I totally disagree with that. One of the things I had seen on social media recently was the thing of a woman says she's sick and tired of somebody asking, why don't you have children? You're missing out, blah, blah, blah. A woman's job is not only to bear children, they have a mind and a body and a thought process outside of that. And if you don't want children, that's okay. In this day and age, it's okay to say, hey, you know what? I don't want kids. Where 20 years ago, you didn't say that. You were denying yourself of something. Now, I think the only thing you're denying yourself of if you don't have children is the thought of having children. And you're allowed to say, I don't want them, or you're allowed to wait, and you're allowed to be the one that says, I don't want kids and I want to be independent and it's okay to be selfish. Where for a man, it was never, I want kids or I don't want kids. It was just, you're the man, you don't have anything to do with children. Where now it's perfectly okay for a single man to adopt a child and live a life because they wanted children, but they didn't want to be married. So the structures of men and women are different, and this emerging adulthood, when you're finding yourself and your instability is okay, where it didn't used to be. Now, it used to be by the time you were 18, you needed to get it together. Now, to be 30 and not having it together is considered okay. Um, Thank you so much for this. I hope this is good, and I apologize for being